Pope Leo XIV knelt on the granite step in the rain and took the trembling black dog into his arms. He did not speak. The bells of Sacred Heart Parish in Brookline, Massachusetts, were ringing for the 11 o'clock Mass, and the cassock he wore, plain white, hemmed at the Vatican guest wing by a sister of charity named Bonifacia, was already soaked through at the knees. The dog weighed almost nothing. Its right ear was missing. Around its neck was a length of frayed clothesline, knotted twice, the kind of cord a man uses when he has no leash and no money to buy one. A broom lay on the third step, bristles wet. Handle splintered where it had struck something hard. Behind the Holy Father, on the porch of his own church, stood Father Anselm Krieger, rector, 6 years in the post, doctorate in canon law from Innsbruck, the man who an hour earlier had ordered the animal driven from his porch with that broom, because, he had said, the 11 o'clock Mass was for parishioners and not for vermin. Father Krieger was holding a white pocket square against his lower lip. He was not bleeding. He simply did not know what else to do with his hands. The Holy Father looked into the dog's eyes for a long time. And then, very slowly, he crossed himself. Not the small papal cross of blessing. The full sign, slow, 3 fingers pressed to forehead, sternum, shoulder, shoulder, the way a child is taught. As if greeting someone he had not expected to find. He whispered something into the wet fur. 3 of the parishioners on the porch later swore that it was in Latin, and that it was not a prayer they had ever heard. Henry Walsh, the 78-year-old janitor leaning on the railing in his Korean War veteran's cap, said it sounded more like an apology. Father Krieger took a half-step forward. "Holy Father," he began. "Please, the floor, the dog." The Pope turned his head. He did not raise his voice. "Father Krieger," he said, "you will fetch a basin. You will fetch a clean cloth. You will fetch warm water. And you will not leave this animal's side until I tell you." Father Krieger did not move. The Holy Father returned to the dog. What no one on that porch knew, not the rector, not the parishioners, not the 2 Swiss guards standing at the bottom of the steps with rain running down their helmets, was that by sundown that day, Father Anselm Krieger would be on his knees beside the Holy Father at his own altar, washing the dog's wounds with his bare hands, while a Korean War veteran named Henry Walsh stood at the predella and spoke the one sentence that would break a 6-year rectorate forever. To understand how a parish like Sacred Heart of Brookline could come to chase a stray dog from its porch with a broom, you have to understand its ledger. Sacred Heart was, by the autumn of 2024, the 7th wealthiest Catholic parish in the Archdiocese of Boston. Its endowment, separate from the diocesan general fund and answerable only to a 5-member parish council, stood at $31 million. Its restored Cassavant organ, installed in 2019 under Father Krieger's personal supervision and approved without a single dissenting vote, had cost $4,200,000, paid in full by a memorial fund established by the family of a deceased Boston bank president named Donovan O'Hara. The brass plate at the base of the organ read, in Latin, Soli Deo Gloria, to the glory of God alone. In the same calendar year that the organ was installed, the St. Vincent de Paul soup kitchen that Sacred Heart had operated since 1948, 3 blocks east, in a converted hardware store on Beacon Street, had been closed. The official reason, signed in a one-page memorandum by Father Krieger and rubber-stamped by the Chancery, was that the building had failed a fire inspection and that the cost of bringing it into compliance was prohibitive. The fire inspection report itself, when Maeve Donnelly later pulled it from the city archive on a Tuesday morning in February, ran to 2 pages. Total cost of remediation, $9,400. The Chancery had been told $68,000. Maeve Donnelly had been the parish secretary at Sacred Heart for 19 years. She was 62, a widow, and she had kept every receipt that ever crossed her desk because, she said, her late husband had been an auditor for the city of Boston and had taught her that paper outlives everyone. She had not yet been called, but she would be. Across the river in the South End, the shelter that had once received the bulk of the Sacred Heart Soup Kitchen's overflow was running at 140% of capacity. Its director, a Franciscan sister named Bernadette Halloran, had written 3 letters to Father Krieger in 3 years, asking for any small contribution, any small partnership, even the donation of the parish's old steam stoves. The replies had been courteous. They had been short. They had explained, in a paragraph that varied by no more than 4 words across all 3 replies, that Sacred Heart's mission was sacramental, not social. Father Krieger's defense, the one his curates had heard him deliver at clergy luncheons, the one he had once delivered to a visiting auxiliary bishop over a glass of Brunello on the rectory veranda in June, was always the same. Compassion without dignity, he would say, is sentimentality. The parish is not a kennel. He said it the way other men say the weather. The American visit of Pope Leo XIV, announced 8 weeks earlier from the Holy See press office, had thrown the Brookline Rectory into something close to a quiet panic. The official itinerary was unremarkable. Pontifical Mass at the cathedral on Friday. A youth gathering at Boston College on Saturday. And on Sunday morning, a private visit requested by the Holy Father himself to a parish whose name the nunciature had marked simply as to be determined. It was determined 6 days before the visit. The Holy Father had asked, through his private secretary Monsignor Cardona, for a parish that was rich. Not one that was struggling. Not one that was photogenic. One that was rich. The list had landed on the desk of Father Krieger on a Tuesday afternoon at 4:15. He had read it twice. He had set his coffee down. He had called the diocesan press office and arranged for the parish flowers to be replaced with white lilies imported from Provence. He had called the organ restorer in Quebec and requested an emergency tuning. He had called the cleaning service and added a 4th woman to the Saturday roster. He had called, finally, the city's animal control office and asked, in a voice his secretary later described as unusually careful, whether there was any program for the removal of stray animals from the porches of religious buildings before a state event. There was. He had taken down the number. What Father Krieger had not done, what he had specifically declined to do, twice when his young curate Father Doyle suggested it, was contact the Beacon Street shelter or the closed soup kitchen, or Sister Bernadette, or Henry Walsh. He had not contacted Henry because, he said, the janitor was already on the schedule for Sunday morning, and there was no need to disturb him at home. The Chancery believed in the days leading up to the visit that the Holy Father had chosen Brookline because of the beauty of its architecture and the prestige of its endowment. They believed Sacred Heart had been selected as a showcase of American Catholic prosperity for the Roman press. They were wrong. The Holy Father was waiting for a side door. The 11 o'clock Mass at Sacred Heart began without him. Pope Leo XIV had been escorted by protocol to the sacristy at 10:15. By 10:30, he had asked in mild Italian for a glass of water in the location of the side entrance. The under-sacristan, a young seminarian from Cuenca named Esteban Vargas, had pointed to a small wooden door at the back of the corridor and said, in his careful Spanish, that it led to the kitchen, and from the kitchen to the side garden, and from the side garden to the parking lot for the deliveries. The Holy Father had nodded. He set down his glass. He asked Esteban, switching to Spanish, whether the side door was used by the parishioners. Esteban had said no. The parishioners came in through the main doors on the front steps. The side door was for deliveries. And for Henry. Who is Henry? The janitor, Santidad. He sweeps the steps. The Holy Father had paused. Which steps? The side steps, Santidad. He sweeps them every morning before Mass. Father Krieger says the front steps must be done by the maintenance company because the maintenance company has insurance. The Holy Father had not replied. He had simply finished his glass of water, set it down on the credence table, removed his pectoral cross, and laid it beside the glass, and walked out the side door. The 2 Swiss guards in the corridor had moved to follow. The Holy Father had raised a hand without turning around. They had stopped. He had stepped into the side garden alone. It was raining. It had been raining since 5 that morning. The side steps of Sacred Heart, 4 of them, granite, narrow, were slick. At the bottom of the steps, in the gap between the iron railing and the brick wall of the rectory, sheltered under a torn black umbrella propped up with a broken broomstick, was a wooden orange crate lined with 3 folded towels. The towels were dry. The crate was warm. Inside the crate, curled on the topmost towel, was a small black mutt with a missing right ear and a length of frayed clothesline knotted twice around its neck. Its breathing was shallow. There was dried blood on the bristle marks across its right shoulder. Beside the crate, in a chipped enamel saucer, was the small heel of a hard-boiled egg. The Holy Father knelt on the wet granite. He did not lift the dog at first. He simply placed 2 fingers very lightly on its chest, the way a priest places fingers on the forehead at confirmation. The dog opened its eyes. The Holy Father looked into them. And for a long moment, he did not move at all. If you are still here listening, if you have not scrolled away, then Pope Leo XIV would have knelt on those steps for you too. Stay with him. The hardest part is still ahead. It was at this moment that Henry Walsh came around the corner of the rectory carrying a paper bag. Henry was 78 years old. He had been the janitor at Sacred Heart for 31 years, and the assistant janitor for 9 years before that. He had served in the United States Army from 1949 to 1953, 2 tours, and had carried 2 wounded men, one of them his younger brother Patrick, down the eastern face of Heartbreak Ridge in October of 1951, under mortar fire. Patrick had not survived the field hospital. Henry had received a Bronze Star and a folded flag. He kept the medal in the third drawer of his kitchen cabinet, under a stack of property tax receipts, because his late wife Sheila had never liked to look at it. He lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of a three-decker on Aspinwall Avenue. Sheila had died of pancreatic cancer in 2017. His daughter Margaret lived in Worcester with 2 grandchildren and called him on Sundays after Mass. His pension from Sacred Heart was $318 a month. His Social Security check was $946. After rent, after the gas bill, after the medications for his blood pressure and the arrhythmia in the left chamber of his heart, he had on average $170 a month for food, gasoline, the telephone, and what he called, in conversation with Margaret, his incidentals. $340 of his incidentals between September and November of the previous year had gone to a veterinarian in Alston named Dr. Rosa Maldonado for the treatment of a stray dog Henry had named Pio. Pio, after Padre Pio, because the dog, when Henry first found him at the bottom of the side steps in the rain 3 years earlier on the eve of the feast of St. Joseph, had been bleeding from both forepaws. As if Henry had told no one but the vet, he had been crucified by something. Henry stopped at the corner. He took off his veteran's cap. He held it against his chest with both hands. He did not approach. The Holy Father looked up. "Are you Henry?" Henry nodded. "Come down." Henry came down. He stood beside the Pope. He did not know what to do with his hands either, so he held the paper bag against his stomach with both of them, the way a man holds an offering at the offertory. "Is this dog yours?" "No, Holy Father." "He is the Church's." The Holy Father looked at him. "The Church's?" "He came to the side steps 3 years ago. He has slept here every night since." A pause. "I told Father Krieger he was here." Father Krieger said he was not the parish's responsibility. Whose responsibility was he? Henry was quiet for a moment. Then he said very softly, "Mine." The Holy Father reached into the crate. He lifted Pio. The dog did not resist. It rested its chin in the crook of the Pope's elbow as if it had done this 1,000 times before. The Holy Father carried the dog up the side steps and into the corridor. He did not go into the sanctuary. He went into the rectory office, the one with Father Krieger's nameplate on the door, and he sat down at the desk with the dog in his lap, and he opened, one after another, the 3 drawers of the desk. In the top drawer he found a leather appointment book bound in green calfskin, a pelican fountain pen, and a silver cigarette case engraved with the Krieger family arms. In the middle drawer he found a numbered list of donors and a printout of the previous Sunday's collection. The total was $27,410. In the bottom drawer, he found a folder. It was thin. It was labeled, in Father Krieger's neat Germanic hand, Beacon Street, Closure. He opened it. He read the City Fire Inspection Report. He read the Chancery Memorandum. He read the unsent reply to a fourth letter from Sister Bernadette, drafted but never mailed, which contained in its last paragraph the words, "The parish is not a kennel." He read, in particular, a single sheet at the back of the folder, which was a printout of an email from an animal control company in Quincy, dated 4 days earlier, confirming the scheduled pickup of a stray black dog from the side steps of Sacred Heart on the morning of the Holy Father's visit between 9 and 10 a.m. for transport to a county facility. The standard county facility holding period, the email noted in a footer, was 4 business days. The pickup had been scheduled for 9. Henry had arrived at 8:45 with the chicken. He had moved the dog into the side garden behind the rectory and propped the torn umbrella over the crate. The truck had come at 9:03. The driver had knocked on the front office door. Maeve Donnelly had answered, looked the man in the eye, and said there was no dog on the property and never had been. He had asked her to sign a form. She had signed it Maeve Lynch Donnelly in her maiden name so that the signature could not be traced back to the parish payroll. The truck had left at 9:08. The Holy Father read the email twice. He set it down on the desk. He took the Pelican fountain pen from the top drawer. On the back of the email he wrote, in his small, slanted Latin hand, a list of 7 names. The first name on the list was Father Anselm Krieger. The second was the Monsignor at the Chancery who had signed the soup kitchen closure. The third was the director of the Diocesan Finance Council. The fourth, the fifth, and the sixth were the 3 members of the parish council who had approved the organ without reading the dissent memo Maeve Donnelly had typed and slipped beneath their place cards. The 7th name on the list was his own. He underlined his own name twice. Then he stood, carrying the dog, and walked back down the corridor toward the sanctuary where Father Anselm Krieger was, at that moment, beginning the introductory rites of the 11 o'clock Mass without him. The procession down the center aisle of Sacred Heart that Sunday morning was not the procession the parish had rehearsed. Father Krieger had reached the second collect when the side door of the sanctuary opened and the Holy Father walked in his soaked white cassock, carrying a small wet dog. The congregation, 364 people, the highest attendance Sacred Heart had recorded in 7 years, fell silent in stages. The first 3 rows fell silent at once. The middle of the church took perhaps 4 seconds. The back, where the families with small children sat, took a little longer, because a boy in a striped sweater laughed at the sight of a dog inside a church, and his mother pulled him into her lap and pressed her hand against his mouth. Father Krieger, at the altar, did not lower the book. The Holy Father walked past the front pew. He did not look at the congregation. He climbed the 3 steps to the predella. He walked past Father Krieger without acknowledging him. He placed the dog very carefully on the second altar step, on the marble, with the frayed clothesline still around its neck. Then he turned and faced the rector. "Father Krieger," he said, "come down." Father Krieger came down. The Holy Father raised a hand toward the side door. Esteban, the seminarian from Cuenca, came forward carrying a small porcelain basin filled with warm water and a folded white linen cloth. He set the basin on the marble beside the dog. He stepped back. "Father Krieger," the Holy Father said again, "you will kneel." Father Krieger looked at the congregation. He looked at the basin. He looked at the dog. He knelt. The Holy Father stood beside him. He did not raise his voice. He spoke in English, slowly so that every word would be heard in every pew, from the bronze altar rail to the last bench under the choir loft. In November of last year, he said, this parish recorded a Sunday collection of $27,410. In the same month, a man named Henry Walsh, who has swept the side steps of this church for 31 years, spent $340 of his own pension on the medical care of this animal because no one else in this parish would. He paused. In 2019, this parish spent $4,200,000 on an organ. In the same year, this parish closed a soup kitchen that had operated since 1948, citing a fire code remediation cost of $68,000. The actual cost was $9,400. The discrepancy was not an accounting error. It was a decision. He paused again. And 4 days ago, this parish placed an order by email with an animal control company in Quincy for the removal of this dog from the side steps of this church before my arrival. The order was placed so that the Holy Father would not see what this parish had become. He has seen it anyway. The silence in the church was the silence of a place where no one was breathing. The Holy Father looked down at Father Krieger. "Take the cloth," he said. "Take the basin. Wash the wounds on this animal's shoulder. You will not stop until I tell you." Father Krieger reached for the cloth. His hand was shaking. He dipped it in the basin. He wrung it out. He laid it against Pio's shoulder. The dog did not flinch. Father Krieger washed the bristle marks. He washed the rope burn at the throat. He washed the wound under the missing ear. He worked slowly with the precision of a man who had once, as a young curate at the Cathedral of Innsbruck, washed the feet of 12 poor men on a Holy Thursday, and never since. At some point, he began to weep. He wept silently. He did not lift his head. The Holy Father did not speak for a long time. Then, very quietly in Italian, the Holy Father said, "Mi perdoni, Signore." "Forgive me, Lord." Father Krieger looked up. The Holy Father was not looking at him. The Holy Father was looking into the eyes of the dog. And Father Anselm Krieger, who had a doctorate in canon law from Innsbruck and 6 years as rector of one of the wealthiest parishes in the Archdiocese of Boston, looked into the eyes of the small black mutt he had ordered driven from his porch with a broom, and for 1 second, just one, a second he would later try and fail, for the rest of his life to describe to his confessor, he saw what the Holy Father was seeing. He saw a face. He saw it inside the eyes of the dog, the way you see a candle inside a window from the street at night. It was the face of a man. It was, Father Krieger told his confessor a year later in a closed room in the chancery, the face of the man on the crucifix, above his own altar. The same brow. The same eyes. The same wound at the temple where the crown had been. Father Krieger let the cloth fall into the basin. He sat back on his heels. He did not speak. The Holy Father turned to the congregation. He did not address Father Krieger again. Within 90 days, he said, the Beacon Street Soup Kitchen will reopen. Its name from this Sunday forward will be St. Henry the Janitor House. The director will be named by Sister Bernadette Halloran of the South End Franciscans, who has written 3 times to this rectory in 3 years and received 3 letters of refusal. He paused. The annual operating budget of the Rectory of Sacred Heart will be reduced effective tomorrow morning by 70%. The savings will be transferred on a recurring basis to the new shelter. The Cassavant organ will not be sold. It was given by the family of a man who is dead and cannot be consulted. But it will be played from Easter forward for 1 free public concert per month, with the doors open to anyone who walks through them, and the donations directed to the same shelter. He paused once more. The side door of this church will, from tomorrow, be the door for the poor. There will be a covered porch. There will be a heated bench. There will be a sign above the door, in English and in Spanish, that says, Entrate. Siete a casa. Enter. You are home. The bench will be built in the name of Henry Walsh of the United States Army, who carried his brother down a mountain in Korea and who has been carrying this parish on his shoulders for 31 years. The Holy Father turned finally to Henry, who was standing in the side aisle still holding the paper bag of boiled chicken against his stomach. Henry stepped forward. You will sit in the front pew of this church for the remainder of this Mass, and for the remainder of every Mass you wish to attend, in the seat of the senior warden, which is vacant. You will be paid, from the parish endowment, a stipend matching the salary of the rector, for the remainder of your life. Your daughter Margaret will receive, beginning today, the full cost of college for both of her children. You will not be permitted to refuse. This is not a gift. This is restitution. Henry's eyes were wet. He did not move. The Holy Father looked down once more at the kneeling rector. He waited. Henry took 2 steps forward. He came up beside the altar. He looked down at Pio, who was looking back at him from the marble, panting softly, his tail moving in a small, slow arc against the stone. He looked up at the Holy Father. He said, Holy Father, Pio has not had his supper. The Holy Father closed his eyes. He smiled. It was the only smile of that morning. Father Anselm Krieger, kneeling beside the basin, did not raise his head. He stayed there, hand on the wet cloth, water dripping from the cloth onto the marble, for what was later measured by a deacon at 4 minutes and 17 seconds, while the Holy Father lifted the dog from the altar step, handed him gently to Henry, walked down the predella, walked down the center aisle of the church, and out of the front door into the rain. Father Krieger did not stand. Not for a long time. His defense, the one he had been certain he would deliver if ever the moment came, compassion without dignity is sentimentality, the parish is not a kennel, never left his mouth. It died inside him on the second altar step. The story did not end that Sunday morning. There is no fairy tale in this. Beacon Street did not reopen the next week. It took 104 days. The first set of steam stoves arrived in the 3rd week of January, donated finally by Sacred Heart in a delivery truck driven by two seminarians from St. John's, one of them Estevan from Cuenca. Sister Bernadette Halloran stood on the loading dock in the snow and signed for them. She did not say anything for a long time. She crossed herself, the same slow, full sign the Holy Father had used on the granite step in the rain, and she went inside. By Easter, the kitchen was serving 240 meals a day. There is a brass plaque at the entrance now. The lettering is small. It reads, in English, for Henry Walsh, who carried his brother down the mountain, and a dog up the steps, and a church on his back. 1947 to... The dash is still open. Pio lived 4 more years. He slept every night of those 4 years on a folded olive-drab army blanket beside the side door of Sacred Heart, which now had a covered porch and a heated bench and a sign above it in English and in Spanish. The blanket had belonged to Henry's brother, Patrick. It still smelled, Henry said, of Korea. Pio did not mind. He died on a Tuesday morning in March at the bottom of the side steps, in the same spot where the Holy Father had knelt in the rain. Margaret found them there together, her father sitting on the wet granite, Pio in his lap, gone perhaps 20 minutes. Henry did not cry that morning. He had used up most of his tears, he later told her, 4 years earlier, in a front pew he had never expected to sit in. Father Anselm Krieger submitted his resignation on the Monday morning following the visit. The Holy Father refused it by letter. He was instructed to remain at his post for not less than 10 years, to attend every Friday at 6 in the morning, the breakfast service at St. Henry the Janitor House, and to serve coffee personally to every man and woman who walked through the door, without speaking to them, unless spoken to first. He still does this. In the third drawer of his desk in the rectory of Sacred Heart, Father Anselm Krieger keeps a single object. It is the splintered handle of a broom. He does not look at it often. He does not need to. He knows it is there. But the seminarians at St. John's, in the year that followed, began to whisper in the corridors after Vespers that Pope Leo XIV had been heard to remark, on the flight back to Rome that Sunday evening, that he had been a priest for 41 years and a bishop for 19, and that in all that time he had seen the face of the Lord exactly 4 times. Once in a dying woman in a hospital in Chicago. Once in a child at a confirmation in Lima. Once in the eyes of his own mother the night she died. And once in the rain, in the eyes of a black dog with one ear, on the steps of a church in Brookline, Massachusetts, the morning a priest tried to chase him away with a broom. This is where the story passes out of Sacred Heart and into your hands. If it moved you, leave a like, for Pio, for Henry, for the men eating tonight on Beacon Street who would have been turned away 4 years ago. Subscribe if you refuse to be the kind of person who walks past. Send this video to the friend in your life who feeds strays. No message. Just the link. Somewhere right now on a side step in a city you have never seen, a small dog is shivering under a torn umbrella. A man with a broken broom is standing over him, and the Pope is not coming. You are.